All right, so we left off with all 6 of our buttons in place. And if we previewed this, we would see, clicked it twice. That's what happens in the up, over, down, and hit states of these buttons. So we're ready to move on to the next piece. And also, we've just made certain that each one of these has got a name over here in the instance names, and they're all correct. BTN, number, underscore, BTN. That's going to be important, specifically because of the next layer we're going to make. And the next layer we're going to make is going to be our actions layer. So I'm going to lock my buttons layer. I'm going to make an actions layer right here. On my actions layer, I'm going to write, my first time ever, you guys have never seen this before, the action script. Now, there are a couple different ways to get up the action script window. This little up arrow in the properties panel, that will bring you the action script window. You can press the F9 key on your keyboard, and that will bring you the action script window. Or you can go up here to Window and pull it down and find Action Script. Actions right there. Any of those 3 techniques will open up the action script window, and that's exactly what we need right here. It's going to take a moment to come up. It usually doesn't come up very quickly, so you need to be a little patient. An action script is basically when you give interactive elements of an animate movie behaviors to do. You need button 1 to know what to do. You need button 2 to know what to do. So I've given you a piece of action script, and it's going to be on my page, and it's also going to be shared, saved in my shared folder under Student Share. But it's just a PDF document, and it's called Script, and it looks like this. Not terribly thrilling, but we need to copy all of this stuff. Before we do, let me tell you what it means. Stop right there. Stop is my first piece of action script. It's going to make the movie not play through. You know how normally it'll just play from the first to the last frame without any interruption. That's because it's normally linear until you tell it not to be. Interactive is the opposite of linear. So if I tell it to stop, it will absolutely stop dead in its tracks. It won't go past where it is until it knows what the next step is. And I've got this next piece of script repeated with different numbers, right? This is basically the script for, basically the script for the first button. It says BTN1 underscore BTN. Sound familiar? Because you just named button 1. You called button 1 BTN1 underscore BTN. That's what this thing is named right here. You're telling button 1 to add an event listener. So it's going to listen for the next event. And the thing it's going to listen for is a mouse click. So button 1, I need you to listen when the mouse clicks. When that happens, you're going to show something called image 1. And how do I show image 1? How's this function of show image 1 happen? It's a mouse event. I'm going to go to and stop a place called label 1. I know this is a little maddening at first, but you're saying button 1, listen. Okay, button 1, when you hear the mouse click on you, you're going to show image 1. Where the heck is image 1? Well, it's at a location called label 1. Pretty straightforward when you think about it. So I'm going to copy all the script. You need to copy the whole thing all the way down to the bottom, unless you want to start writing script yourself. All the way down to the bottom, including that last bracket. That last closing brace is important, and if you leave that off, the whole thing falls apart and you go, God, it doesn't work. And make sure you copy it like this. You just right-click and copy it. You're going to stick that right there in your action script panel. You'll see that it's got some color to it once you stick it in this panel. It's supposed to have color. It's supposed to be able to see, why is it not going past? I don't think I got the whole thing. I think I only got button 4. I'll try that again. If you find that you don't get the whole thing, by all means, stop. See, mine started at button 4. Didn't start at the stop. It's got to start at the word stop. Go all the way down to the bottom, closing brace. We're going to copy that, and we're going to paste it here. Good. It has to start with the word stop. It has to end with that last right brace, okay? When you have your action script this way, you can just close the window. You can close it with that X. You can close it with the F9 key. Doesn't matter. What does matter is that right there, and it's so small you can barely see it, but right above that opening blank keyframe in the actions layer, there's a letter A. That letter A tells you that you have got action script on that layer. I'm going to lock that up, and I'm going to do my last layer on this thing. God less. I keep doing that. So my last layer on this thing is going to be the layer where I put my big pictures and I tell this thing where to go to. Because remember, I told it to go to a location, but I got to make those locations evident. Otherwise, the script isn't going to go anywhere. So I lock the actions layer, and I'm going to make a layer called images. And there it is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a keyframe. I'm going to put a picture in, and I'm going to put it in at a real specific location. And when I do that, I am going to then make new keyframes and just trade the picture out for a new picture at each keyframe. So I'm going to start with frame 10. That's not frame 10. That's frame not 11, sorry. This is frame 10. Starting at frame 10. So here I am at frame 10. I'm going to make myself a keyframe. You can right click or you can F6 on your keyboard, whatever method you prefer. There's a keyframe. And on that keyframe, remember before I used all the A pictures? Now I'm going to use all the B pictures. Let's go ahead and just remember B. B for big. These are the big pictures. So I'm going to put picture 1B, drag it right here, and drop it. And that's going to be right in the middle of my stage. See how it's kind of big enough to cover up all my text? Now I don't have to go and remove the text. I can just cover it with a photograph. As with everything in this movie, my properties panel is going to give me the opportunity to place this at some rather precise XY coordinates. This one's going to have an x-axis here of 90, and its y position is going to be 140, and that's it. That way it will be perfect every time, and that will be fantastic. The next place I'm going to go to is frame 20. At frame 20, I'm going to make a keyframe. And then I'm going to do the same trick that I've done before. I'm going to click this picture, go to swap, and I'm going to put picture 2B. And at frame 30, I'm going to make a keyframe, click the picture, swap it for 3B. I think you can make some inferences here, guys. At 40, there's a keyframe. I'm going to swap it for 4B. At 50, there's a keyframe. Picture, swap it for 5B. And at 60, I'm on the wrong layer, 60, there's a keyframe. I'm going to swap this picture for 6B. And so I've got it all. And if I were to look at this right now, this whole timeline, and just play it back right here in the main window, it would just click through them all. And that's not what you want, not just yet. So there's two things left to do. We've got to label the locations. Remember in our action script, if you remember our action script, we told this thing to go to a place called label 1, label 2, label 3. We're basically giving it a destination. So when I click button 1 and you hear me click button 1, then I need you to show an image. And the image is going to be at a place called label 1. So you're going to go to label 1 and stop right there. That's what the script says. So now we've got to build the place called label 1. Oops, sorry. We're going to build the place called label 1. So right there, that's going to be where label 1 is, because button 1 is this one right here. And it's going to go to label 1 right here, right? So I'm going to click on frame 10, which is a keyframe. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to type label 1. I'm going to type it entirely in lowercase letters, no spaces, no extra stuff, no frills. It has to be lowercase label number 1. I have seen in the past students spell it wrong. It's not LE. That will mess up your script. EL. No spaces, no underscores, no capital letters. Don't put a space after the 1. Just LABEL1 and you're finished. And when you do that, we go to the next one at 20, you'll see it says label 1 right here. So you're just going to go through, and each one of these is going to get a name. Label 2. Oh, I see, I misspelled it. Make sure I check that. And label 3. 4 and 5 and 6, and I believe you are getting it now. This is what's going to make my script work. Oops. Never been much of a typist. I have in the past had students ask me why this movie goes on to frame 80 when clearly it only needs to go to frame 60. I don't know. It was just to make it look like we could have stopped it at 70. It doesn't matter. It was just so you could read all the labels. That's all. We could have done this in 10 frames. We could have done it in 6 frames or 7 frames. But I wanted to be able to show you how those labels look. So I tried to give it enough space in the timeline so you could see how the label names went in. Anyhow, either here or there. When you hit Control and Enter on your keyboard, or you can go to Control and tell it to test scene, Control test. That is going to bring it up. And you can check and see how you did. Very exciting. Let's see if the surfer comes up. When I grade this, I'm going to check all of them and see if they work. And that is all you need to do. So finish it up, get it done, show it to me. I would love to give you 100 for this.